Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome again. This is Alena from Furley Bioextracts, and today we are going to talk about the impact of NCDs, or non-communicable diseases, in Malaysia. So first of all, what are NCDs? Well, NCDs are non-communicable diseases, aka lifestyle diseases. These include diseases that we all know, such as heart disease or cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Now, in Malaysia, obesity and diabetes are definitely the two biggest NCDs in terms of population. So worldwide in 2016, 71% of deaths were actually caused by NCDs, meaning that based on various factors, some of them are lifestyle, some of them are genetic, but on the whole, they are generally preventable. 71% of those deaths were caused by NCDs, and in order of number of deaths caused by those NCDs, it would be cardiovascular disease, so heart disease or any kind of disease to do with your artery, with your blood vessels, such as really high cholesterol, cancer, and then there was chronic respiratory disease, so the after effects of smoking, as well as diabetes coming in fourth. And these CVDs actually disproportionately affect lower income countries. So Malaysia would definitely be one of them on a worldwide scale. So according to the Ministry of Health of Malaysia, as I mentioned, NCDs are the main cause of death and biggest contributor to disability in Malaysia for both genders, and this is mostly due to diabetes, hypertension, like after a heart attack or a stroke, you might be paralyzed or your mobility might not be as good, cardiovascular disease, as well as cancer. So we do see a worldwide trend there, which is same in Malaysia, and Malaysia has the highest prevalence of obesity and diabetes in the ASEAN region, so we have something to be careful. We have to be careful about this. So the impact of diabetes is really substantial. It's not just the cost of our own out-of-pocket money where, you know, we as an individual, we go to a hospital or a private clinic or private hospital and we pay for the treatment, but it's also on, as we all know, the government also heavily subsidizes these treatments in Malaysia. So in 2011, 13% of the healthcare budget went towards treating diabetes and its complications. So not NCDs as a whole, just diabetes. So we know that diabetes is a big problem within Malaysia. The other costs that NCDs comes with are loss of productivity. This includes sick days, as well as going to work while sick but not being able to perform as well as you could without the NCD, as well as a loss of well-being and quality of life for yourself as well. So in terms of lost productivity, there are long-term macroeconomic impacts on the country's labor supply. This is, in turn, is productivity and economic growth. This is due to reduced workforce participation through this illness, as well as early retirement, because if you do become disabled, you're more likely to retire earlier, especially if it's, for example, diabetes, where you might end up in a very, very severe case, you might even end up with a chronic wound or even amputation. And this, in turn, as a country as a whole, reduces the size and quality of our workforce and our output through, as I mentioned, more days off, as well as being unable to be fully productive. So what is the burden of the disease on the individual? Well, in a study done by the MOH in collaboration with WHO in 2017, they actually looked at the number of healthy life years lost. So, and they quantified it. So it's more of an estimate, okay? And this estimation was created by placing monetary value on DALY, or daily, which stands for disability adjusted life years. And what this measures is a summary measure of the health burden resulting from disability and lost years of life associated with a specific disease. It was applied to all ages, so from the elderly to the young, and it was expressed as a number of years of potential life lost due to premature mortality and years of life lost due to disability. So we'll see later we've got the YLL and the YDL later, which is years life lost and years disabled life, respectively. Okay, so what are the factors for this? Well, obviously we've got NCDs as a whole. In 2017, there was an estimated more than 7 million people who were affected by disability adjusted life years. So 7 million people not only were disabled, but also majority of them were premature deaths, meaning that they could have been prevented, and they were mostly attributed to unhealthy diet and tobacco use. Of the 7 million, 72.4% was due to NCDs, and that, if we were to give it a monetary value, was 100.79 billion in intangible losses, where nearly half of that population that had a premature death or were affected were between the ages of 50 to 69. So we know that as we grow older, we are more susceptible to NCDs, as well as the complications that may arise from having an NCD. Okay, so let's go in more specifically. Let's talk about CVDs, or cardiovascular diseases. These are all the diseases related to the heart and blood vessels. In 2017, it was estimated about 1,400,000 people were affected, and 59.4% were caused 59.4% of dailies, and most of them were premature deaths, such as a heart attack, where the ischemic heart disease had a higher mortality burden. But if you had a stroke, it contributed more to the YLD, so the years lived with disability, and this totaled to 59.85 billion ringgit in loss. And unsurprisingly, the age group that was most affected were those between the ages of 50 and 80. So next NCD was diabetes. In 2017, 238,394 dailies, and 94.3% of those were from type 2 diabetes. So it's the diabetes which can often be caused by lifestyle, especially unhealthy diet. And this resulted in 10.21 billion ringgit loss, with most of the people being affected between the ages of 50 and 69. And the cost of this particular NCD rapidly rises from the age of 30. So if you, I wouldn't say the word contract, but if you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes from a younger age, as you grow older, the costs increase. Yes, because especially if you get another illness, diabetes can really affect your recovery. And while it's not obvious when you get an internal illness, but when you get an external wound, for example, it can make it a lot harder to heal, and that's where it leads to chronic wounds, and then maybe if it goes beyond that, then amputation. And the last NCD is cancer, which we all know. In 2017, 97% of years life lost were from cancer, and that was a 30.73 billion ringgit loss, with affecting age group 50 to 69 years. This was in general for all types of cancers, and in order, the most common type of cancer was the respiratory, followed by breast, colon, and rectum. Okay, so in summary, CVD, diabetes, and cancer cost 12.88 billion ringgit in lost productivity. Or taking it from another standpoint, if you were to calculate all the dailies, YLL and YLDs, 22.4% of our GDP in intangible costs due to loss of life or healthy life. So the next thing we want to ask ourselves is, how do we reduce our risk for NCDs? This is always a big change, but especially because it's so easy to eat unhealthily in Malaysia. We have a lot of really, really good food. But first things first, you would need to get a checkup. You need to know what you're working with. So definitely go see your doctor, get tested, and then once you get the test results, discuss with your healthcare provider how you could make changes to shift your results into a more favorable position so you can reduce your risk. And then next thing is to actually change your mindset. In order to make changes to your lifestyle, you have to actually want to. So getting healthy, I really like this thing. Getting healthy is a journey, not the goal. And so that means that getting healthy is a lifelong process. It's not something that once you reach that goal, you stop. You don't. You have to just keep on doing it. And yes, the goals are very subjective to each person's body, hence why you would need to see your doctor first to get the plan which works best for you. And you can get started by setting small goals, right? Because sometimes if you're a large goal, it can be very overwhelming. And if you set a small goal, you get that sense of achievement a bit faster and you feel more motivated to keep on going. And those small goals do build up to that one overall goal. It's the same with saving money. They do build up. The next big thing is getting more sleep. I am guilty of this. I mean, even today, I only had 5 hours of sleep, which is not good, but it's something that we need to work on. Most Malaysians do not get enough sleep. This affects our mood, our health, and our weight. So some of you may or may not know that getting sufficient sleep is actually really important for maintaining a healthy weight, and it also helps us perform better. Chronic sleep deprivation has been associated with increased smartphone use. So I'm very guilty of this with that TikTok. Don't go on TikTok, it's very addictive. And what the general suggestion is that you turn off your screen 1 to 2 hours before your bedtime. Just set up a nice relaxing schedule without your phone, without your electronics, and aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. But depending on your own needs, you may need more or less sleep. So always listen to your body. All right, the next one is obviously to eat well. It's something that we've been told from a young age, but our aim is for a healthy and balanced diet. And what this means is everything in moderation. There is no such thing as a bad food, and a balanced diet is one where every meal has all the macronutrients your body needs. So what are the macronutrients? Well, they are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. We all learned that in science, I think, in primary school. So carbohydrates give you energy. You can get some examples of low GI carbohydrates, which would keep you fuller for longer, but you won't have such a high calorific intake. Would be brown rice, whole wheat bread, and buckwheat noodles. So anything with a lot more fiber. Fats aid with your recovery. It's also really important for your hormones. So especially for women, if you do go on an extreme diet for a long period of time, one of the side effects is actually you would lose your menstrual cycle. And that's because the hormones in your body can no longer be sustained. So you need those fats. Fats are good for you if you eat the right fats and in moderate amounts. So some nice sources of fat would be white meat, grilled fish, and nuts and seeds. Excuse me. Nuts and seeds. And lastly, the last macronutrient would be protein, which is also used to maintain energy levels and help you build muscle. So if you like to work out in the gym, you definitely need to eat. You definitely need to eat not only protein, but all the macronutrients to make sure you are recovering well. And so some really good sources of protein include olive oil, avocado, and dark chocolate, but always in moderation. So a bit deeper on how to actually get a healthier diet. First is increase your fruits and vegetables. The MOH recommends at least 3 servings a day. However, WHO did find out that 10 portions of fruits and vegetables a day has contributed to many health benefits, and this ensures that your body has enough micronutrients. And personally, I know that I don't eat enough fruit and vegetables, especially when eating out. It's a lot harder to find, for some reason, I don't know why, I cannot seem to find nice vegetables when I eat out. But that's something I have to do and work on at home myself. We would need to reduce our processed grains, so cereals like Cocoa Crunch, Milo cereal, really nice, but packed full of processed grains and packed full of sugar. So we'd want to reduce them to 6 servings a day, and what that might look like, where each item is actually 1 serving. So 1 serving would equal to maybe 2 small scoops of rice, or 1 cup of noodles, or 2 slices of bread. Okay, we also want to limit saturated fat, which is recommended 60 grams per day, as it's really high in calories. And we want to reduce our sugar intake. So things like sugar, refined sugar, and fake sugars, as it increase our calorie count. They're also known as empty calories, and they also do cause mid-afternoon crashes. The WHO recommends below 25 grams per day. Limit sodium. This is another big one, especially if you eat out a lot. About 74% of Malaysians consume far too much salt, and the MOH recommends less than 5 grams a day. So it's hard if you do eat out a lot, but if you cook at home, you can definitely control that a lot better. And the last thing to keep in mind when you are looking for a healthy diet is to do the diet in moderation itself. Treat yourself sometimes. It's okay to actually eat that chocolate or drink a bottle of Coke once in a while, because you want to maintain a healthy relationship with your food, and don't over restrict yourself. Otherwise, it can lead to eating disorders and feeling the guilt, which is really not healthy. You want to be able to eat the foods that you enjoy, but also be healthy. It's most important to bulk your food. It's most important that a bulk of your food meets your macronutrient and calorific needs first before you go for that extra treat. And if you find a particular food a barrier to the goal, instead of demonizing it and calling it a bad food, maybe you could find ways to cut portion sizes or find a healthier alternative. So for example, if you really like chocolate, you could maybe have half the amount you normally have, and change it for a little bit dark chocolate with a lower sugar value. All right, last 2 things. Drink more water. That's a big one. It's very essential, and if you don't drink enough water and then you start drinking enough water, you will see a definite improvement in how your body works, especially your digestive system, maybe your mood, because dehydration can affect all of those things. It helps clear the skin, which is really great. It boosts energy levels, and the general is to aim for 8 glasses a day. However, your body, depending on your size, your age, your weight, your fat body mass, your muscle, may be different, so you might also want to discuss that with your doctor. And lastly is exercise for a healthy heart. So the Ministry of Health actually put this I always forget what it's called, this abbreviation together called FITT. So frequency, intensity, time, and type. So frequency would be 3 to 5 times a week. Intensity is until you sweat and breathe deeply, where you can still talk but you cannot sing. And time is at least 20 minutes per session, excluding warm up and cool down. That's important, excluding warm up and cool down. So at least 20 minutes of intense exercise. And type, it can be anything: aerobics, sports, jump rope, cycling, the whole variety. So that is all for today. I hope that you learned a bit more about NCDs and how it affects us as a country. On the fiscal side, we all know that different NCDs have different effects on us as a person. So what we want to do is move more towards a healthier lifestyle, one step at a time. So that's all for today, and I will see you next time. Bye.